Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic, and today I'm going to be talking about this film, Sicario, Day of the Soldado. This is the sequel to the 2015 Sicario that was directed by Denis Villeneuve, also written by Taylor Sheridan, and was shot beautifully by Roger Deakins. If you've never seen the original Sicario film, I highly recommend it. You don't have to see it before seeing this film to understand the characters or to understand the story, because this film, one of the strengths of this film is that it stands on its own. It is its own independent story. Yes, it has the same characters, or at least a couple of the same characters from the original Sicario film, but it also tells an entirely different story in the same reality, in the same world. So if you know nothing about Sicario or the Sicario universe, it all takes place on the Mexican border. It deals with the drug cartels. It deals with all the violence that takes place on the Mexican border. And what is to me most fascinating about this film is that it's a film about the border between the United States and Mexico, and yet there is almost no political messaging in either the first or second Sicario film. And I think that's really great, because what you're able to do then is you're able to talk about the reality of what's going on. You're able to talk about how there are these really dangerous drug cartels, about how there is human trafficking, how there is, of course, everything going on with all the drugs that are being brought across the border, and also, too, some of the plights that a lot of the people trying to get over the border go through. But to do that in a non-political way, to do that in a way where you're not trying to push some political message, it takes a lot, I feel, in today's Hollywood world to be able to do that, because I feel that so many people just get lost in the politics of anything. And that's why this film is so great, because obviously, there might be people who see a trailer for this film or read a bit of the description of it and say, oh boy, this is Hollywood going to be trying to push some crazy agenda on me, and it doesn't do that. So I just want to get that first off right out of the way. This does not get into the agenda. This does not get into any political points whatsoever. It is just a good film. The genre would be, you could really talk about it being a dramatic film, but also there's a lot of really great action. But there's also, just so you know, there is a lot of graphic violence in it as well. So basically, in the first film, what you have several different characters. You had Emily Blunt's character, who plays a member of the government. You also had Josh Brolin, who played another one as well. And then you had Benicio del Toro, who was probably the most interesting character in the first Sicario film, because he was the one you knew the least amount about, and he was pretty much this person who was kind of off a leash. Basically, he was someone who was almost like a private hire, or Sicario. Again, the word Sicario itself essentially means someone who is a hitman, so essentially that's what he is. And so he's brought into this world to take care of some of the issues, to be a little bit dirty in this, in this world. And so in this film, it's great because you have those characters back. You have Benicio del Toro back, you also have Josh Brolin back, and both of them are just totally let loose. Emily Blunt in the first film was kind of the moral ground, the moral character, the one who was uncomfortable going in certain areas. She hated what she was seeing. She hated what the drug cartels were doing, but she also wanted to follow the law. She also did not want to go off the reservation, as it was. But these two characters didn't really have as much of a problem with, were a lot more morally ambiguous, especially Benicio del Toro. And in this film, they almost have no morality whatsoever. But what's really interesting is that they're not painted as the bad guy, but they're also not really the good guy either. And that's what's really great. These are two characters who you understand where they're coming from. You understand why they're doing the things they're doing, but then you also have a lot of questions. You also say, is this really the best way that we can go about it? Is this really the best thing that we can do in this certain situation? And it also brings in so many other players. Obviously, it brings in members of the government as well. But again, to do that without being political, instead of just have them be characters in a story, telling this incredibly gripping story of this girl, because essentially what the story focuses on is they are trying to start a war between the drug cartels in Mexico to try and tear them, to make sure that they can tear themselves apart. So instead of getting the military involved and just attacking leaders, and essentially basically what they go into is that if you destroy one person, even if you destroy a leader of any organization or government, then you'll have a lot of people that will grow in their place. But if you have these two groups fighting each other and taking each other out, you're a lot less likely to have this kind of blood in between Mexico and the United States. And so it's actually well thought out in that way. Now, of course, are there problems with that kind of philosophy? Yes. But as far as the movie's concerned, it actually makes a lot of sense for what the plot is going for. And because of that, it just, oh my goodness, it's fantastic. So guys, if you haven't seen this film or haven't seen the first film, go check out Sicario. Go check out this film, Sicario, Day of the Soldado. It is wonderful. I give this film an A-. It is so good. And I will say this, is it better or as good as the first Sicario film? No. why is that the case? Well, it's not the story. The story, I feel, is just about as good, maybe a little bit weaker since it is a sequel, but it's still really good because Taylor Sheridan does come back to write the script. But what's lacking in this film? Well, you don't have Denis Villeneuve behind the camera as the director, and you don't have Roger Deakins literally behind the camera as a cinematographer. Those two worked so well together and created not just a beautiful looking film, but with Taylor Sheridan's script, we're able to make a beautiful story as well. All three of those people worked really well together. With this film, I would describe it as saying you have okay direction, you have decent cinematography, but you also have that amazing script as well. So I do think it's interesting how they were able to bring this all together. This was a film that some people thought, not a lot of people were wanting. I know I did. As soon as this film was announced, this was my most anticipated film of this year because I love the first film so much. And I feel like this film, though it doesn't live up completely to the expectations I had, it kind of subverts them in a lot of ways too, because I was going in expecting one kind of story and got something very different. And I will say this, the ending of the film, there's essentially two endings. There's one where the film, the story, the film goes in a direction I never thought a film would go. It's just one of those things where something happens and you just think to yourself, what? I was not expecting, like, what in the world? No, this is not supposed to happen. And then it just goes into this interesting just, oh my goodness, it's really hard to describe without going into spoilers, which I don't want to go too in depth with in this review. Again, that's something that I'll talk to maybe on future live streams. I'll go into some more spoiler territory. But then the actual ending, like literally the last 30 seconds of the film, something happens as well that I'm still processing. I'm still not exactly sure how I feel about it because I feel that the first ending that's there is kind of perfect in a lot of ways because, again, it has that subversion of our expectations, but it also kind of has a really nice end note to it as well. But then it goes in a different direction with the actual ending of the film, and it's interesting. I mean, again, part of me wants to really love it, but part of me also wants to question why it was there. But in the end, this film is fantastic. Again, the direction's fine, the cinematography's fine, and the script is just amazing as always. Again, Taylor Sheridan knocks it out of the park once again. I am so excited for everything that he writes. I mean, I was kind of surprised that he didn't direct this film as well because his directorial debut was Wind River, and that was a film that got a lot of buzz around it. Unfortunately, did not get, I feel, as many accolades as it deserved because it was one of the best films of last year. Again, it wasn't my favorite, but it was definitely one of the best films of last year. And I just want to also talk about briefly Rotten Tomatoes, because as we all know, Rotten Tomatoes, it kind of goes all over the place and has had a lot of issues recently, and I just wanted to show y'all guys what the Rotten Tomatoes has right now. So right now the Rotten Tomatoes score is 62% for critics, 59% for audiences, and to me this actually makes a lot of sense. Why are critics not really liking this film? Well, it has a lot of gun violence, it doesn't try to make a political message that I feel that they might want in the film, and I feel that ticks a lot of them off. I feel like it doesn't go the direction that they want to go, and audiences might not like it for this very reason. Even with the first Sicario film, much like this film, it's not meant to be a high-paced action thriller for the entire film. Instead, it's more of a slow-paced, methodical grind that leads to this amazing finale that I just love, but then also has sprinkled throughout it some really awesome action scenes as well. So if you really like, more contemplative thrillers, like I guess I would put Psycho in there as well, because even with Psycho, it's not action all the time. It's a thriller. It builds up over time. I'm not saying this film is as good as Psycho at building up that tension or thriller, but it does do a very good job still at building that tension, especially with the score of this film. The score, just the whole time, you're just wondering what's going to happen next. Where is the story going to go? And it's really great. So if you've never seen these films before, please do check them out. Again, don't bother watching what Rotten Tomatoes is saying right now because it has everything to do with the politics, and the audience score is low, probably because it is a film that is not necessarily for everybody. But again, if you like anything that I described in this video, then you will like this film, and I would recommend go to see the first Sicario film first. Again, you can pretty much find it anywhere online these days, but check that out first. If you like that film, and especially if you like the characters of that Josh Brolin plays or that Benicio del Toro plays, I would recommend checking out this film. I think this film deserves money, so that way maybe we can get a third film in the franchise with maybe a couple of the same characters, maybe bringing back other characters as well, and then maybe get Denis Villeneuve back as well. That'd be awesome. So what do you guys think? Have you seen this film? What are your thoughts on it? Please let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions about the film as well, please let me know, and I will greatly appreciate that. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe as well, share it if you like it as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.